So what if the Wi-Fi network you're connected to right now isn't actually a human invention?
Right, like what if it's just a knockoff?
Exactly. A cheap mechanical knockoff of the universe's actual operating system. I mean, we tend to look at the internet as our ultimate technological triumph. Cables, servers, silicon.
But this source flips that completely. It asks, what if the World Wide Web is just a crude physical prototype of an invisible network that already spans the cosmos?
Which is such a wild premise. And that's exactly what we're unpacking today in this deep dive. We're looking at a fascinating lecture transcript that outlines the cosmology of a movement called Daesoon Jinriho.
Yeah, and context is super important here, right? Because Daesoon Jinriho is a Korean new religious movement. They were founded relatively recently in 1969.
Right.
So while they draw on much older East Asian philosophical traditions, their scholars are, naturally reaching for modern metaphors. They're mapping ancient concepts onto modern IT infrastructure.
And our mission today is to figure out how they managed to do that so perfectly.
Right.
Because they take these ancient ideas of spirits and reincarnation, and
They map them right onto things like network protocols and metadata. It's really complex. We aren't just reading theology today. We're looking at a highly developed theoretical framework.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to start with their core argument about the evolution of networks. The lecture points out that human technology naturally scales upward.
Yeah, always getting bigger.
Like, we started by networking computers in a single building, then we scaled up to connect cities, and eventually the entire globe with the World Wide Web.
Oh.
But the text insists that the World Wide Web isn't the final stage.
Not at all.
It says we are currently moving into the era of what they call the Universe Wide Web.
Which they define as an instantaneous network seamlessly connecting heaven, earth, and humanity, like all at once.
Heaven, Earth, and humanity. Okay, so how does that actually work in this framework?
Well, the lecture uses a great recent example to explain it, the pandemic. Think about the massive shift to online classes and remote work.
Oh, right, where physical distance just kind of stopped mattering overnight.
Exactly. You didn't commute to a lecture hall, you just logged in. Your presence was established instantly in a shared digital space.
So they're saying the physical internet is like, almost like training wheels for humanity.
Yes, a pedagogical tool. It was given to our modern, logic-driven minds so we could finally comprehend how the actual cosmic network operates.
Okay, but if this universe-wide web is a functional reality, my immediate question is about access. Like, how do you actually log in?
Right, because a network is useless without the password.
Exactly. And this is where the text completely blew my mind, because it takes spiritual incantations and rituals, things we usually dismiss as, I don't know, symbolic poetry or empty cultural traditions.
And it recasts them as literal IT authenticators.
Yes. So chanting a specific mantra is essentially typing in the Wi-Fi password to the universe.
That is exactly how they frame it. They are entirely functional in this cosmology. You can have the most powerful connection potential in the world, but if you don't input the correct login credentials, you are locked out.
Wow.
Specific chants or rituals are quite literally the passwords. They authenticate your spiritual IP address, and once you're authenticated, your connection to the divine realm, to your ancestors, to this vast cosmic database, it's direct and instantaneous.
So it basically bypasses the need for physical pilgrimage entirely. Like, you don't have to climb a sacred mountain to talk to the universe.
Nope. You just need the correct login credentials to access the network from your living room. It democratizes spiritual access by removing the physical barriers, mirroring exactly what the physical internet did for information.
Okay, assuming I buy into this and have authenticated my connection, a network implies other users, right? Am I just pinging a cold cosmic server, or are there administrators on the other side? Who else is online here?
This is where the cosmology diverges sharply from what a lot of people might expect. The administrators on this network are the divine beings, the gods or spirits.
Okay, gods. Makes sense.
But they are not what you think they are. In this system, divine beings are composed of pure logic, absolute truth, and rationality. However, they are incredibly hyper-specialized.
Ultra-specialized.
Yeah. The lecture actually compares them to university professors holding incredibly niche PhDs.
Wait, hold on. I need to push back on that a little.
Sure.
Because every major Western religious tradition I grew up around pitches an omniscient, all-knowing creator, right? Like a deity that sees and understands absolutely everything. Are you telling me this system intentionally caps the intelligence of its own gods?
Well, it doesn't cap their intelligence exactly. It caps their breadth. Think of it as the ultimate siloed corporation.
Oh, I see.
You might interact with a god who is the absolute, undisputed authority on, say, the physics of fluid dynamics. They are perfect in that domain. But if you ask that same god about the sociology of human grief, or even just a different branch of physics, they are completely ignorant.
That is wild.
Outside their specialization, they are blocked. The source text describes these spirits as being rigid, like iron. They follow cosmic rules flawlessly, but they are utterly inflexible. And crucially, because they are pure logic, they entirely lack emotion.
So the gods are essentially brilliant IT specialists
Mhm.
who are so rigidly siloed they can't even talk to each other across departments.
Yes, exactly.
And humans are the messy HR department brought in to fix the company culture.
I love that. That is a remarkably accurate way to synthesize it.
Yeah.
Because humans possess the exact element the gods lack.
Which is emotion.
Right. The source calls this jeong. It's a profound Korean concept that translates roughly to deep affection, emotional bonding, or relational vulnerability. In this cosmology, human emotion is not a flawed byproduct of biology. It is the most powerful force in the universe. It is the literal heat required to melt the rigid iron of the gods.
The lecture grounds this with a scenario that I think is super relatable. It asks you to imagine a parent who just had a brutal day at the office.
Oh yeah, this is a great analogy.
Right. They've been yelled at, they're stressed out, they're tense and rigid with anger, basically acting like that inflexible iron.
Totally closed off.
Yeah, they walk through the front door emotionally walled off.
Yeah.
But then their young child runs up and gives them a huge unconditional smile. And instantly all that rigidity shatters. The tension just melts.
Because that human emotion, that Jung, is the only thing capable of binding completely different rigid entities together,
Right.
which addresses a critical macroscopic problem in their universe. Because according to this worldview, for vast stretches of cosmic time, the universe has been running almost entirely on the cold, inflexible logic of these specialized gods.
And when you have pure logic without empathy, friction is inevitable.
Exactly. Beings follow their own rules strictly. They step on each other's toes, resentments build up, and the universe starts experiencing a literal structural breakdown.
It's like running an engine without any oil. The parts might be perfectly machined, but the friction will eventually tear the whole thing apart.
Precisely. And the solution to this cosmic breakdown is a core doctrine called Sininjoa, which translates to the harmonization of the divine and human.
So they have to work together.
Right. The universe cannot function purely on divine logic, nor can it function purely on human emotion. The ideal state requires blending the absolute specialized truth of the divine realm with the warm, unifying zhong of humanity.
The gods provide the structural integrity,
Mm-hmm.
but humans provide the connective tissue that brings the entire network into harmony.
You nailed it.
I mean, I love that concept, but I have to admit, I'm kind of struggling with the efficiency of this design.
How so?
Well, if humans and our capacity for emotional bonding are so vital to keeping the universe from tearing itself apart, why is our hardware so fragile?
Yeah.
We live for 80, maybe 90 years, and then we die.
Right.
From a systems architecture perspective, relying on such fleeting beings to provide your essential cosmic glue seems like a massive design flaw.
It looks incredibly inefficient if you view a human life as a single, isolated event. But this transitions us into how Daesun Jinriho conceptualizes reincarnation.
Okay, let's get into that.
Becoming this emotionally rich, harmonizing force isn't something a rigid spirit can just elect to do. To evolve, to actually generate that jiang, the rigid iron of a spirit must be melted down and poured into a new mold.
And that mold is human existence.
Basically, yeah.
So the human mind and body are just the crucible where a spirit is forced to experience vulnerability.
Exactly.
But the text mentions a really devastating side effect to this process, which it calls the Valley of Forgetting. When a spirit enters the human mold, it suffers total memory loss.
Right, a complete wipe.
But why? Why not just let the god retain its knowledge while experiencing human life? That seems so much easier.
Because true vulnerability requires ignorance. I mean, think about it. If a divine spirit is walking around in a human body, but it explicitly remembers that it's an immortal, powerful god playing dress-up.
Oh, right. It can never feel authentic fear.
Exactly. It can never experience the genuine crushing grief of losing a loved one or the desperate joy of connection. Without real stakes, you cannot generate real Janong.
So the memory wipe, the absolute forgetting of your divine nature, is the necessary mechanism that forces the spirit to authentically bond with others.
Yes.
That makes profound psychological sense, but the sheer scale of it is terrifying to me. Because generating enough John to evolve isn't a one-and-done process, is it?
Not at all.
The lecture pulls a reference from the Agama Sutra, which is an ancient collection of early Buddhist texts, to illustrate this. It says that if you were to gather all the skeletal remains from every single past life just one individual has lived,
It would form a pile larger than a massive mountain.
a mountain of bones, for just one person. I mean, it forces you to confront the immense psychological weight of cosmic time.
It really does. Every single one of those skeletons represents a lifetime where you were born, you grew attached to a mother and a father, perhaps you fell in love, you had children.
You formed incredibly deep emotional bonds.
That vital Zhang. And then you died. You were ripped away from them, you forgot them entirely, and you started the excruciating process all over again.
The source material doesn't romanticize this at all, by the way. It describes the cycle of reincarnation as deeply exhausting and wearisome.
Yeah, it uses the Korean word jinjeopta,
Right.
which carries the connotation of being grossed out or just deeply sick and tired of something. The goal isn't to rack up good karma so you can be born as a billionaire in your next life.
The ultimate objective is to get off the ride.
Exactly. The term for that objective is dotang, which refers to a state of ultimate spiritual completion or enlightenment.
So what happens when you reach Dotong?
It is the moment when a spirit has evolved sufficiently through countless human lifetimes, synthesizing enough jing and logic, that the mold of a physical body is no longer necessary. You stop reincarnating.
Oh, wow.
You retain the connective empathy of a human and regain the brilliant logic of the divine, becoming a perfected being.
You essentially become a co-manager of the universe-wide web,
Mm-hmm.
maintaining cosmic harmony without ever having to die, forget, and leave your loved ones again.
That's the end goal, yes.
Okay, but let's bring this down from the cosmos into the cubicle, because I'm thinking about the listener right now.
Yeah.
If the ultimate goal is Dotong, ending this grueling cycle of rebirth, how does a normal person navigate that?
Right, in everyday life.
Yeah. I'm assuming most of us don't have the time to retreat to a mountain cave and meditate for 40 years.
Mm.
So how do we apply this massive theoretical framework to modern life?
That is actually the most brilliant pivot in this entire philosophy, I think. It takes all of this high-level cosmology and distills it into highly practical ethics. The source explicitly states that we have entered the human-centered era. In this era, human character, your moral and ethical conduct, which is called ingayuk, is actually valued higher than divine status or spiritual rank.
Wait, really? The universe cares more about how you treat your peers than it does about your cosmic pedigree.
Yes.
So how do we hack the network to our advantage? Like, what is the user manual for this human-centered era?
The user manual is governed by a core principle called Haewon Sangsang. This translates to living in a way that resolves grievances and mutually promotes life.
Mutually promotes life.
In its most practical application, it means your primary directive is to live to make others successful. Your job on the network is to ensure the success, harmony, and well-being of the other users.
And the mechanism for actually executing that brings us right back to the IT metaphor of the universe-wide web.
Because
Because if this network is real and the connections are instantaneous, then our words aren't just, vibrations in the air. The source introduces this concept of eondiak, or virtuous words.
Right. If the universe is a web, your words are the metaphysical data packets traveling across it.
Metaphysical data packets. I love that.
And here is where the mechanics of the network become incredibly sensitive. Because when you speak to someone, the network doesn't just route your data to the physical person standing in front of you.
This was the part that absolutely floored me.
It routes that data to their entire spiritual lineage, their ancestors, who are simultaneously online in the divine realm.
The lecture issues a very stark warning about this.
Yeah.
It says if you curse at someone, even under your breath, say a coworker makes a mistake, and you mutter, "What an idiot," as you walk away.
That negative energy doesn't just evaporate.
No. It travels instantaneously through the universe-wide web, directly to that coworker's ancestors.
And those ancestors react exactly how you would expect a fiercely protective family member to react. They take deep offense. You have just insulted their descendant, their bloodline.
Right, which makes total sense.
And the source claims this reckless use of words sparks literal heavenly fights in the spiritual realm. You are generating conflict among the spirits.
Wow.
And because everything is networked, the fallout from that cosmic conflict will inevitably route its way back to you, causing your own life to unravel.
It totally redefines karma. It goes from this mysterious, abstract balancing scale into like immediate network feedback.
Immediate feedback, exactly.
It means the ultimate cosmic cheat code isn't a secretive, esoteric ritual. It's essentially just exceptional customer service.
That's a great way to put it.
It's looking someone in the eye, wishing them well, and genuinely meaning it, because you understand that the universe is actively processing the metadata of your conversations.
And when you consistently practice Ion Deok, when you deploy virtuous words and genuinely work to make others successful, the administrators of the network, the divine spirits, are thrilled.
Because you're providing the Jiang.
Exactly. You are actively providing the emotional glue that keeps their rigid systems from fracturing. You're doing the hard work of harmonizing the network.
And
In return for maintaining the system's stability, the network will actively prioritize your success and guide you toward that ultimate goal of Dodong.
But the text is very clear that you can't game the system by taking the easy route, right?
Yeah.
It explicitly warns against the danger of cliques and echo chambers.
Right.
It argues that if you only associate with people who are exactly like you, people from your same hometowns, who went to the same university, who share your exact political or social views, you are actively stunting your spiritual evolution.
Because there is no friction to overcome in an echo chamber.
Ah.
If you only interact with identical viewpoints, you aren't actually practicing Sininjoa. You aren't doing the work of harmonizing diverse, rigid elements. You're just reinforcing existing iron.
That is fascinating.
True cosmic growth requires the vulnerability and the effort to collaborate with, understand, and promote the success of people who are fundamentally different from you. That is the only way a network expands and grows stronger.
Looking at the entire scope of this deep dive, the architecture of this worldview is just staggering. I mean, we started with the premise that our physical internet is just a tangible model of the universe wide web.
Right, the training wheels.
We explored the hyper-specialized gods made of inflexible iron who possess all the logic in reality but desperately need our human capacity for emotion, our Jana, to prevent cosmic collapse.
Then we examine the terrifying mountain of bones we each leave behind in our exhausting loop of reincarnation, recognizing that the memory wipe of birth is the necessary crucible for genuine vulnerability.
And it all culminates in this profoundly empowering realization about our agency.
It really does.
Through Hewan Sang, the dedication to making others successful, and Ion Deok, the deliberate use of virtuous words, we are not just passive users on this network. We are the programmers.
Yeah.
Our daily interactions, our kindness, our willingness to bridge divides, these are the commands that write the reality we inhabit.
And whether you approach this cosmology as a literal metaphysical truth, or simply as a brilliant, intricate psychological metaphor for human connection, the behavioral output demanded by the system is flawless.
I completely agree.
Treating people with deep intentional respect is the fundamental operating system of any healthy environment, whether that environment is a corporate office, a family home, or the entire span of the cosmos.
So think about what that means for you as you move through the rest of your week. The next time you're frustrated with a colleague or someone completely cuts you off in traffic and you feel that urge to mutter an insult under your breath, just pause.
Take a breath.
Imagine for a second that their ancestors and the entire cosmic IT department are currently online, actively monitoring the chat. How might that simple thought experiment change the very next words that come out of your mouth? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, watch your data packets, and we'll catch you on the next one.